Hey, Senda.
Hey, Phil.
Hey, are you having fun playing this?
The one that we're playing right here? This one?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I hadn't really thought about it.
All right. I mean, that doesn't sound that doesn't sound like enthusiastic, consent. So maybe we should talk about, are you having fun or not?
That sounds like maybe a good idea.
Cue music. And welcome to another fine episode of Panda's Talking Games. I'm one of your hosts, Phil.
And I am your other host, Senda.
And we're back.
We're back. And a little bit rusty.
2 weeks off.
It was a glorious 2 weeks of
vacation.
Neither of us having to think about anything.
It was a 2-week vacation. And guess where I was?
Where were you?
In Denver. With you.
I liked it. It was nice.
It took a 2-week vacation. Went out to see Senda in Denver. Went to Wyoming.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was I actually had a lot of fun. Actually, Wyoming was quite fun. We'll talk about some of that in the bonus outtakes. A
Bamboo
little bit about
Lounge.
Vacation. Oh, I'm sorry. The Bamboo Lounge. Yes, of course.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's totally rusty.
Yeah.
Been 2 weeks. Kind of off our game a little. We're getting there.
Yep.
But before we start the show, I need to congratulate you because I don't want to do it just for the patrons. So I want to congratulate you because you got an offer for a new job that is pretty cool and exciting.
I did. I am very excited about it. I'm going to go off and be a product manager now. Hopefully that's all going to work out delightfully.
I love it. I'm a project
You'll hear more from me later.
I'm a project manager. You are a product
manager, and they are different.
They are definitely different.
Kinda, yes.
They have some
There's overlap, but also not.
They do. But I think you will be a fantastic product manager. I'm very excited that you got the job, and I just wanted to congratulate you publicly rather than just to our patrons.
Thanks.
So nicely
Jobs,
done.
my friend. Job stuff is like job stuff, and I'm very excited.
Well, and I mean, you interviewed literally as I was on the plane.
Yes.
And you didn't find out until
the day after I dropped you off at the airport.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So anyway, that was exciting. So anyway,
yes.
Congratulations, and now we can formally begin the show.
Okay. On with the show. Okay, cool. So our topic for tonight comes to us from Spencer Clark, aka Pterodactyl U on Twitter. And Spencer said, firstly, they're on a roll, so just finished episode 224. This is a little out of date. You're probably ahead of that now, but awesome. I'm glad that you're enjoying. And this is some side note stuff, right? But I kind of agree. You're not in a basement anymore, which is
no
great.
more basement freezing.
No more basement freezing. But if you were,
yes,
like a really warm wool kilt situation.
So let me be clear. I own a wool kilt.
You just need to wear it in the basement, but you don't have a basement anymore, so this is no longer an issue.
It's no longer an issue, although I will tell you that I do have a fabulous wool kilt because I am half Scottish, and so the last time I got married, I wore the full Scottish regalia, and I had my kilt actually made in Scotland and imported through Canada. From a place in Toronto that had a corresponding shop in Edinburgh. So, my kilt is from Scotland. It is in my family tartan, the Johnston tartan. It is heavy and enormous because I'm a big man, and that is a lot of wool that goes into wrapping
a lot of fabric.
A man like myself.
Good. Anyway, kilt business aside, which we can chat about more later if we need to. Spencer was saying, did we do the episode on the dry spell? I've been having some of the "is this even fun anymore" problem with reenactment, and I'm very interested in your take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually, we picked this topic because I'm actually having the same problem, Spencer.
Yeah.
I'm having it with one of my, to be clear, the phrase "is this even fun anymore" could apply to a couple things, right? Is this game even fun anymore? And that's happened to me a lot of times, right? Is this game even fun anymore? The other one, which is slightly more distressing, is and this has happened to me as well in the past, is role-playing even fun anymore?
Yes, and I've also been down that path, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to address, I think primarily we're going to look at, is this game fun anymore? But I think pretty much everything we're going to say tonight will also apply to, is role-playing fun?
Yeah, I
anymore?
agree. Yeah.
Which is I think an important topic because on the Misdirected Mark before we went on vacation, we talked about GM burnout. And that's a little different than are we having fun, right? Because burnout is really like a more advanced stage, right? Burnout is like I'm cooked, I'm spent, I don't have anything in the tank to do this anymore. But that happens usually way after the "are we having fun" part. So it's really good. But also, "are we having fun" is not only a GMing thing. It is absolutely a player side question as well.
And usually when it has happened to me, it has been as a player.
It's happened to me on both sides of the screen. I've had it happen as a player. I've had it happen I have it happen as a GM a lot.
Yeah, I think the funny thing is, and this is just skipping way ahead, but I'm just going to say it now because it makes sense right now. I think the reason I haven't hit it as a GM is because I'm always GMing games that are short enough that I just don't get in far enough to start questioning. Versus you're like, well, I'm a year and a half in on this game, right?
Yeah.
Is it still fun?
Legitimately.
Which is a really valid question, right? I literally have never GM'd a game that lasted that long in my life.
I will say that my average GMing is about 6 to 9 months. So when a game goes over a year, that's a pretty exceptional run. Usually I can do a lot of good work in 6 to 9 months. Once you go over the year mark, either I'm on a roll or it has its ups and downs.
Right. And when I'm running a game, it's usually 3 months tops.
Right. Which,
that is the style of both how I tend to enjoy GMing and my particular group because we pass the GM chair around.
Yeah. For me, that 6 to 9 months is usually one major story arc.
Yeah.
And if the game's if it's really firing on all cylinders, when that one story arc ends, maybe there's a second story arc in it. In a couple rare occasions, I've actually done more than 2 story arcs, but typically I get what I want out of a game, and the group gets what they want out of a game in about one really solid story arc.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's me. Other people, your mileage will vary.
Yeah, your mileage will vary. As we just literally discussed, we're very different in terms of this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
stuff.
I'm going to just define one thing, and it's not even going to be a great definition, but we have to talk about it. We have to talk about the word fun.
Yeah.
The word fun is tricky. I will always subscribe to what Sneezak told me a long time ago, which is fun is completely subjective, right? What is fun for one person is not necessarily fun for another person. And fun is that means that fun is a very intrinsic, it is a personal thing to you. When you look at something to be fun, when you say something is fun, you really are saying this is fun to me. I really can't say this is fun to you. I can, but I'm not really the best judge of that.
I can make assumptions based on previous things that you have said are fun if they match up with previous things that I have said are fun.
Oh, yeah. And I will say things to you like, I think you will enjoy this, or I think you will find this to be fun.
Yeah.
Right. But again, that's the best I can do, I think. Right. Just like you said, based on previous data.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll all agree that fun is very subjective. Therefore, fun doesn't really have a good definition. But the way I want to define fun is what it does for you, right? So fun creates joy, right? Mm-hmm. Fun creates entertainment, right? I am having fun. I am entertained. I am having fun. This brings me joy. Or if we're talking about like energy, right? Like then this is energy giving, right?
Yeah.
So this is fun. I am getting energy, emotional or physical. I'm getting energy from this activity.
Yes.
Okay. Now, your own personal definition of fun will be up to you. I know for me that when I say that I'm having fun, it is enjoyable, right? So it creates joy. And it definitely produces positive energy, right? So I'm getting like energy is coming into me as opposed to any energy that I've expended on it, right? Because you almost rarely, especially if you're a GM, you rarely ever just get energy without expending energy. But it means and we talked about this 2 weeks ago on Misdirected Mark, the net energy is positive. I am getting more energy from this activity than the energy I did to put into it, i.e. prep.
Yep.
Right.
It is making the dopamine centers in the brain do the good chemicals.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Excellent. Okay.
Yes.
So, right. And so I'm not going to be able to define fun any other way. I can't just give you like a formula for it. I guess much like the Supreme Court once defined pornography, you'll know it when you see it. Right? So you'll know
when
fun.
You feel it in this case.
Yes, you'll know fun. You'll know it's fun when it is fun. And more importantly, to go back to Spencer's original question, you'll know when it's not fun.
Yeah.
All right, so we need to talk about some things about, quote, fun, right? There's some axioms about fun. Do you want to take the first one, then I'll take the second one, and we'll just keep going?
Yeah. The first one is that what is fun to you will change, right? It can change. It will change. It's just like foods when you're a little kid and you're like, ew, asparagus. And then you grow up. Why did I choose asparagus? Because I can actually speak to this directly, right? Okay. So you're a little kid and you're like, ew, Brussels sprouts. And then you grow up and like, damn, Brussels sprouts.
Brussels sprouts kick it.
So good, right? So your, like, what you derive joy from, what is fun for you, can absolutely change over time. 100%. And it has for me in gaming also, right?
Absolutely. The next one is things that are fun can just stop being fun.
Yeah.
So you could have, and it can stop being fun as you're doing it, right?
Yes.
So, and that's important because you can take this axiom in two ways, right? So something that was fun in the past, when you go to try to get in the future, you're like, oh, that's not fun.
Yeah.
But also you could have started something and been like, oh, hey, this is a lot of fun. And 6 months, 9 months, a year later, you're like, this isn't as much fun or not fun.
Yep. Yeah. For sure. And things that were not fun before, aka Brussels sprouts, can also become fun, right? So something that may not have necessarily interested you previously can become something that you are interested in. And I think if I just put this in gaming terms in my personal history, I would say a game like, for example, Red Carnations on a Black Grave is probably not something that I would have been jumping in on like 15 years ago. And now I'm like, well, I have to be kind of in the right emotional place, right, to take that in. But I'm like absolutely here for that nonsense, right? And that's something that very much has changed for me. That is literally a game that I probably would have been like, oh my gosh, why would you do that? And now I'm like, whoo, let's play. So that kind of stuff can absolutely change.
I'm going to build a little off of what you said originally about what what is fun changes, right? And specifically mean that instead of things changing, because like we just talked about both directions, right? Something that was fun not being fun, and something that wasn't fun being fun.
Yes.
But also and I think this is, because we were hastily writing notes before the show, what I think I was trying to pack into that first statement is the criteria by which what you find to be fun.
Yes.
Right?
Can change.
Can change, like, in you. Like, maybe, and this is pretty true for me. I liked games that were crunchier in the past, right? But my criteria for what makes a fun game isn't. Oh, I got a better one. When I was a younger GM, my criteria for a fun campaign was to wow the players with a story that, like, a plot that I made up with twists and turns, and then, like, behold my, creative whatever, as as you all gasp at this, twist in the plot, right?
Right.
I say that somewhat tongue in cheek, but but truly, like, my younger GMing days was a lot more ego driven. But today, what's fun for me is collaborative storytelling.
Yeah.
Right. I really enjoy collaborative storytelling. I actually don't want to know every twist and turn. I want to be surprised when either the roll of the dice produces it or a player comes up with it, and I'm forced to incorporate it and keep going.
Yes.
Right. So what we consider fun changes. Like, I actually really don't like knowing the whole story anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do the last one.
Yeah, cool. So the other thing, and this is where you were starting to head, which is that the life circumstances around the thing, aka in this case gaming, can change. And because of those life circumstances, stress, duress, whatever, like other things happening, they can make the thing less fun, right?
Yeah, something that's perfectly fun may not feel fun because of everything else that's going on around you.
Yeah.
And that's and that's important to note, because sometimes we feel like we're not having fun anymore, and we just assume that, like, oh, this thing's a problem, when really the problem is something like work or a particular phase of your kids, right? Like I have, in the memory of my kids, there are several major phases when, at different times I was more or less stressed based on them.
Yeah.
Right. And those phases come and go. But, a game that might have been fun, when then all of a sudden we enter a new phase of child rearing, such as teething or potty training or whatever, may suddenly then not, like, that game may not be fun because it's not the game that changed, but the pressures on you have changed.
Yeah. And sometimes the external pressure tangles with the game time or whatever in a way that just makes it not be fun anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it could tangle with the game time. It could just drain you of energy.
Yeah. It could drain you too much to be able to pull energy out of the game.
Right. Had somebody asked me, should we continue playing our campaign, and I don't even remember what campaign it was, during the time that I was Ferberizing my kids, right? Like,
no.
I would have been like, fuck no, we shouldn't, right? Because
no one has slept. The kids are screaming every night.
Your nerves are shredded, like, you're stressed out. I mean, it's just a week at most. Mine was less than a week, which was good. And if you're a parent that doesn't believe in Ferberization, I totally get it. I will just tell you that for my kids, it worked like a charm.
Well, I mean, we can talk about that separately, but boy, it didn't work for me.
A bottle of wine or two, some good advice from a nurse, and we successfully transitioned both of them to bedtime. Anyway, that's another story. If you don't know what ferberization is because you don't have a kid, look it up. It'll sound awful. It isn't much better than that, but
it's pretty terrible.
But if you can pull it off,
if you can do it. Yeah.
I will tell you, 2-story house, a bottle of wine, and some loud TV got us through the first night and a half. All right. Anyway, moving on.
Moving right along.
Moving on. See, we're back. Got some child rearing stuff in here. Okay.
Yep. All sorts of things.
So let's go back to Spencer's original question, right? Which is this fun anymore? I will say that when you have reached this question, right? When this question pops into your head, and it has absolutely popped into my head. It's popped into my head recently. It has popped into my head multiple times in the past as a GM, as a player, even as just looking at role-playing, the industry, publishing. I have asked this question many different levels, right? I've asked it about RPGs. I've asked it about minis. I've asked it about collectible card games, right? All of these. The important thing to note here is when you have reached this question, when this question pops into your head, it is time for introspection, right? So this, if you're not super good at introspection, this may be a little more difficult, but this is one of those cases where when this question pops into my head, I need to sit down with myself. Sometimes I sit down with somebody else and we'll bounce ideas off of them by talking to them, right? I've done it with you. I've done it with Bob, a number of other people. In fact, I just did it last night. I had 2 members of my game group, Sean and Glenn, over, and we were talking about one of our games and just starting to have that discussion about are we having fun? So it's time to be introspective. You have to identify that if you're asking this question, something has happened. You might not know what it is yet, but that's the purpose of our introspective moment here is why we want to answer the question, why is this not fun anymore? And, in order to do that, we want to try to find out what's changed. Now, you might, upon introspection, think about it and just be oh, you know what? I think I was off. I am actually having fun at this. That's perfectly fine, right? You can reflect on this question and be I take it back. I'm actually having a good time with this. It's fine. I was overthinking it. I've done that before.
Right. Or you might approach it and be is this even fun anymore? And then you might even think to yourself, actually, I'm really not sure. Let me give it one more session and see. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's also totally fine.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. Again, this is one of the reasons why I don't judge games until you've played 4 sessions.
Yep.
Right? Because am I having fun? Hard to say if you're having fun the first time you're playing it. Maybe you are. Maybe you aren't. Maybe the second one's clunky. Usually within 4 sessions, if the answer is at the end of 4 sessions, I'm not having fun, I'm pretty sure I'm not enjoying the game.
Yep.
But I would never say it after a single game.
Yeah.
Right? Because anyone can have a bad night. You could have a bad night of GMing. Somebody has a bad night playing. I never one session is never is not a high enough criteria for me to make any rash decision about a game.
Yep.
2 sessions, on the other hand.
2 sessions can be. Yeah.
2 sessions, I'm well, I think we're on to something here. Okay.
Yeah.
So if your answer is yes, I'm not having fun anymore. Or could even just be I'm having less fun than I was before, because you could be catching this pretty early. You need to kind of figure out what's changed. And we're going to run down a list, by no means comprehensive and by no means in order, but we're going to just run down a list of possible things that could have changed.
Yep. The first one being repetition. So this is it a game that was really fun, but it's starting to feel really samey because you're just kind of doing the same stuff over and over again. And that might be, because the mechanics are repetitive, or that might be because the story that you're playing is repetitive, right? Or other pieces of it are repetitive, whatever it is. Do you feel like you've already tread this ground?
Yeah. And that's, if it's story wise, it could just be that maybe you're just dungeon delving over and over and over. And while the dungeon keeps changing, you're just delving and you're not really doing anything different. And maybe that's just like too samey for you.
Right. Or maybe
samey is the word I like to use. It's not a real
samey.
word.
That's fine. I mean, maybe you're trying to collect the 6 jewels in the crown and you're on jewel number 3, but each jewel is a different dungeon and you're just like, okay, we're still collecting these jewels and we don't get to do anything different until we collect 4 more of them.
Yeah.
And we're halfway through the 3rd dungeon, right? Like, and it's, so maybe maybe Zelda doesn't work as an actual D&D campaign. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, so repetition's definitely one. The next one I'll bring up is boredom. Boredom means that, and I guess this is actually going to overlap with one of our other ones, but but boredom is like you're playing it, it's not doing anything for you, right? Like it's not enough of a challenge. Maybe you've reached a level of character, like a power level where, or some combination, you found some combination of things where nothing's really a challenge for you to fight anymore.
Yep.
Right. So like, I'll give you an example. And this did not cause me to not have fun in the game, but it caused me to have to, it diminished a bit of fun in the game. We played Dungeon World. I played in Chris's Dungeon World game, and it was a pretty long campaign, and I got to +3 strength.
Yeah.
And +3 in Powered by the Apocalypse means...
That's huge.
Right. It means that you actually succeed a tad more. You almost never fail. And you're like you skew away from the hard move. Like you skew away from 6-. You still have partial successes, but you actually skew more towards success.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about Powered by the Apocalypse, success after success is not always as interesting as the 7 to 9s. It
is actually, I think it's sort of awful that I'm going to say this, right? But this tells you what kind of player I am. I like the occasional success, but straight successes all in a row is like my least favorite thing to roll in Powered by the Apocalypse.
100% with
the
you.
Least interesting thing to do. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes you got to have a success because you got to reach some sort of like temporary resolution, right? Like
sure. So
that you're just not rolling through this like partial limping like forward thing constantly. But yep. I don't like being successful all the time.
No, I'm 100% with you, right? I mean, the design of that game is that the 7 to 9 is more interesting and more story driving.
Yeah.
And that the occasional 10 plus is great because it's nice to achieve something. But when you've gotten like 4 10 pluses in a row, it's kind of a snoozer.
Yeah, it is. It just is.
So that's boredom. What's the next one?
Completion. And again, this could apply to story or mechanics, right? So from a mechanical perspective, maybe you have mechanically now employed everything and mastered everything that this game does. And this is something we've talked about before in terms of short games that are lighter versus crunchier games. Like, I really only play Lasers and Feelings for a couple of hours because after a couple of hours, you have mastered Lasers and Feelings. Like that's it. You've done it. Right? And if you play it for 6 hours, then the mechanics start not feeling super exciting anymore.
Well, I think
you've done everything they can do.
Right. It actually hits on 2 things, right? So it hits on completion, which is you've played all the rules of the game.
Played all the rules.
And it winds up hitting on repetition.
Repetition, right? Because it starts feeling samey because you're just employing the same thing over and over again, right? Because there isn't that much depth to the mechanics. And then, but again, you may also have it with story, right? So maybe you came to the end of a really amazing story arc and you finished everything off and you loved that game so much that you are now trying to continue past that because you're not ready to give up those characters. But maybe the next story just, doesn't have the same pizzazz because you've finished the story.
Yeah.
And you've lost that drive that came with the original story.
This is like the number one reason why at the end of a major story arc, I'm almost always ready to pack up a game or at least take a break from it.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard. If you've had a really successful major story arc, it is hard to have another one right after it.
Extremely. I will say, I know I talk about Tales from the Loop all the time, but I think that part of the reason we were very successful with our second iteration was that we did not play it right after the first one.
Yep.
We took like I don't even remember. I think it might have been a year, like long. We took a pretty big break in between the two, at least 6 months. And that's part of what made that work.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing. I completed my major story arc was about returning one of the kids' moms who was lost inside the loop. And when we brought her back, we were like, yep, this is definitely the end of this campaign.
Yeah. We destroyed the town and dinosaurs came out of the ground. So we moved and the game was over. I think there's one more thing to point out specifically about completion, which is that whether we're talking about story or mechanics, you are specifically losing the fun of discovery, right?
Yes.
There isn't a new thing to do anymore because you've done all the things.
Yep, absolutely. Mm-hmm. All right, next one is composition. Did someone leave or someone join your group?
Yeah.
Because that will definitely affect your fun, right?
Yeah, group dynamics are a thing.
Yeah, group dynamics. I mean, you could have a perfectly fun game, then like lose one of your players and you guys try to play, but it's not the same.
Yeah, it's really sad when that happens.
That's actually happened to you a couple times.
Yeah.
I will say it happens the other way, right? You're having a banging time playing a game and it's like, firing on all cylinders and it's really good and you get overexcited and you invite somebody to come join your game. And you now have changed the composition of your game. And in doing so, suddenly it's not as much fun.
Yep.
And that's also a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Like, I am very protective of one of my Sunday groups because the chemistry of the three people in that group is fantastic for the type of games that we like to play. That's my Tony, Bob, Glenn group.
Yep.
And they're really good at playing games that involve... having a regular life and having some sort of like other life. So like right now, like we're playing I Hunt, but like they were really good at Tales from the Loop. They were my Tales from the Loop group. They were my Masks group, right?
Yep.
Like they've always exceeded. They've always really succeeded in games where there's like a slice of regular life and then like something fantastical. And I'm really protective of that group because that chemistry between the four of us is like really good. And I have a bunch of other friends who are friends with them and whatever, but I just don't want to add them to that group. I have another group where I'm like, that chemistry is also good and different and we play different games and I'm like more apt to add them to that group.
Yeah.
I'm very protective of that. I'm very protective of that group. I generate some really great stories with them. And so I am reluctant to change the composition, getting back to our topic.
Yes. And changing composition and group dynamic stuff, it just...
Well, we could do a whole show on that later.
We could do an entire show on that. Have we done a show on... We might have done a...
Probably. It's been 5
remember.
years.
Okay, sure.
The answer is I'm sure we did.
Sometime. Anyway, cool. So the next one is engagement, which does overlap with boredom a little bit, which we did name before, but I want to distinguish it specifically in being like the thing that used to interest you in the game is not catching your interest, or like the story was interesting and something about it has changed or shifted and it is not anymore. Or your character was interesting and something else changed, like, somebody else got a thing and now you aren't the only person in that niche anymore and they're good at doing what you do and you feel like you don't do anything anymore. Boy, have I had this experience.
Absolutely.
Right. So then it becomes difficult to engage with the game because you don't necessarily feel like there's anything there for you to do. Right? If you don't feel like your character can engage with the story or like you can engage with your character for whatever reason, wherever those breaks are happening, if you can't actually be interested or engage with the things that are happening, then it's not a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
Kind of stinks.
Yep. The next one I'm going to call we're going to call stresses. This is a huge bucket.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
This is going to mean a whole lot of things, but I think they all eventually fall into stresses, and they can be external, right? So they can be they could be things like, I don't know, we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah,
Right?
Depending
So-
on where you are, it's
Yes.
better or worse.
Yeah, your pandemic mileage may vary depending
Yeah.
on your location. So there are external stresses that could be wearing on you. There are other things like that are external, like moving.
Yep.
Like moving is a very stressful activity. Medical procedures are a stressful activity. Work projects, those kinds of things, right? Those can start to wear on you. There are internal stresses, right? There is our own mental health, right? Which, combined with pandemic, right?
Yeah.
You and I have had we've been pretty candid about this on the show.
Yes.
You and I have had our ups and downs with bouts of depression and anxiety all through the pandemic. And, have dealt with it as best as we can. So those can weigh on you. You might not feel well, right? That could be another thing. Like you could be having like a medical issue. You might be stressed out from school. You might have something come up at work, right? That's like very stressful. Those stresses, right, are the thing that we talked about before, where maybe nothing's changed in the game, but you're changed,
Yep.
right? You're more anxious than you were, right? Meaning that like it's harder to relax, or maybe you're depressed and really nothing seems enjoyable, right? Because
Can I tell an example?
absolutely.
Dear friend of mine, playing in Andy's birthday LARP, and his child brought home a stomach flu from preschool.
Oh, right.
And during the period of the 4 hours in which we played, he went from fine to lying on the floor, poor man, trying to finish with us while he died slowly. And I can only imagine that by the time we got to the end, he was not having a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And not really died. You're just being
No.
hyperbolic.
I am, but he, slowly wilted into a pile of misery, and we ended the game as fast as we could.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yes, stress.
No, I mean multiple times during last year, during the height of the pandemic, multiple times we wound up canceling games because somebody didn't have it in the tank to play, right?
Yeah.
Like they were so stressed from survival, right? Like that it was too much to play. I've said it before, right? I've had my own bouts. We don't talk about it too much in detail, but like I, have over the last couple of months had some pretty big life changes.
Yep.
And I'm at this place right now where I'm kind of looking at one of my games, in this case, my Forbidden Lands game, and I'm asking that question, like, am I having fun? Because like a whole bunch of my life is now different. And I'm, just questioning like, well, I was playing the game before and I was having fun. Has something fundamentally changed in the game? And I don't know, right? Like I'm just like, I'm working through it. Like, I don't think I was super thrilled with some of the material I was using, like some of the published material that was making it hard, but it was like during pandemic. So I was like not really apt to, shake things up game wise. Cause it was kind of a tried and true thing. Everybody was playing and also I felt obligated. Everybody was having a good time.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like feeling obligated to keep it going, but like, was I having a great time? And now I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'm having a great time anymore. Was I in the past? 100%. Right.
Yes.
I really like Forbidden Lands. Think it's a great system. I think it's a totally fun game to play, but am I having fun with it right now? Not sure.
Yeah. To be clear, you've been running that game for like 18 months or something.
I have. And my players all enjoy it, right? Which is also hard because like they're all like, oh yeah, we're having a great time playing it. And I'm like, are you having a great time, or is this like a warm blanket?
Yeah. Is this
Right?
just
Because
a comfort thing?
Right, because I have kind of a different criteria. Like, I need to be excited. And right now I'm kind of in this weird place where I feel a little adrift. Right? Like, not to get too overly personal, but with all my life changes that have gone on, right? Like, I'm kind of sitting here in my apartment in this kind of pandemic I don't know, gap, because I don't think it's over, but it's not over, but it's kind of it's kind of overish in New York State, right? I have to return to work. Our numbers are still really low, right? Like that kind of thing. And I'm starting to just like ask myself, like, what do I want to do for fun? Like, I don't actually know the answer yet, right? I'm still kind of working through this, and like part of it is like, is this game fun? And I don't have that reaction right now with iHunt. I'm still like, I look, in talking about iHunt and reflecting on it, I'm like, oh no, totally excited about iHunt. Can't wait to run it next week. But I'm looking at Forbidden Lands now, and I'm just like, I don't know, like comfortable. I don't want to be comfortable right now. I want to be excited about stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Like to me, comfortable was fun, but maybe it's not fun anymore.
Yep.
So, all right.
Can I add one more to this list?
Yeah, please do.
I'm going to add one more that is sort of pandemic specific and is something that I have struggled with off and on as we have been going through this. And I think I'm going to call it social, right? Because it's specifically about social energy. But the thing that I want to mention is more specifically than that. I usually have a lot of energy for people in person, but it is sometimes harder to have energy and to get energy back when we are playing online. And there is a thing about playing on Zoom, the social fatigue that comes from specifically virtual only interactions, especially if you're doing them a lot for like work or something already. We lost a member of a group to that for the moment because it's just too much Zoom, and that's literally all he does all day is Zoom. It's like he can't do it as part of his fun too. He can't get fun out of being on Zoom again, even though the people that are on Zoom are fun. It just feels like more Zoom. So I just wanted to point that one out too, because there is also such thing as, there's a variety of social fatigue. You could have, even in person, you could just have social fatigue. And it's totally fine. That can absolutely affect your fun. Even if the game and everything about the game is fun, if you're not in a place that you can do social in whatever format it's in, it's going to make it not fun.
I will say that about a month ago, before, it was before I moved, I went to a game day. It was all board games and stuff. We didn't do any role-playing games, but we were playing some like casual board games, like some casual card games. And everybody was talking, and I was like dying.
Yeah, because it's just I can't.
This is so much talking. I need people to stop talking. I didn't say that, but like I got really tired. Like I was just like, I'm kind of having fun because it's fun playing some of these games, but also like, holy shit, I'm dying because everybody's still talking.
Right.
And that's better now. Like
yeah.
I've been more socialized since bubbles have opened up and things like that. And that's better. The other thing I will add that was pandemic specific for me, which goes to playing online as well, is that sometimes a game becomes more work than it is fun getting out of it. So like you said, if you're not used to playing online, or if online is not the way you primarily derive fun, then one, you're getting less fun out of playing online. If you are GMing it and having to maintain a virtual tabletop and do all the additional prep that goes into setting up and keeping and like kind of getting your game ready for VTT, that's more than you normally are used to for your regular game. Now that ratio of energy in to energy out gets even more narrow.
Yes.
Right. And if you're not getting a ton of energy out of a game, you start to have that question about like, is this fun?
Yep.
And that's happened to me. Like I got through Forbidden Lands as a VTT thing, and I had I had to do some extra work for it every week or every time we played or whatever. And I don't know. We should move on.
We should move on. Sorry.
So the point of it all is, and what we were trying to focus on here is that introspection, right? Ask the questions, try to figure out why something isn't fun, right? Yeah. Or why it isn't fun anymore. Yes. Get to those answers. Because once you get to the answers, we have to now talk about what can you do.
Yep. Good.
The thing is, there isn't a ton of things that you can do. Or I should say that most of the things you can do will kind of boil down to a couple of broad categories.
Yes. One of which is, of course, take a break, right? And that might be a short break. Like maybe it's just like, I just need a couple weeks off. Cool. We just did that.
Might even need a session off. Yeah.
Whatever it is, right? Or it could be a long break. You could say, I need to take a couple months off, right? And that is also really okay to do. And it just depends on, what you actually need and what's, kind of getting you. And sometimes it may just be that you need a break, but sometimes it might be, I'm in the middle of moving and I need to not play until I'm done moving and settled in.
Yeah, that was kind of like, so for me, I did that, right? I took 2 months. I made my groups take 2 months off.
Yep.
While I was moving and before I headed out to vacation, because those were kind of back to back. And that was actually preemptive.
Yep.
Right. I was thinking about it, and then I was like, wow, having to prep a game and then run it after, packing and moving and stuff like that does not seem like it's going to be fun.
No.
And while I love playing games, I also was like, I probably need to be focused on this move. Also, if I'm physically tired or whatever, I'm not really going to want to run games, whatever. So I did. I put my games on hiatus, took a break, and that's where I am right now. Is I'm coming off that break, right? Yep. And I'm actually now having that question about one of my games, but not the other one.
Yep. Cool.
Okay. The next one is change something in the game, right? So if you've done your introspection and you're like, you know what, I really like this game. I just hate this adventure that we're on. Hey, guess what? You don't actually have to finish that adventure.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna give you a GM secret here. You don't have to finish an adventure. You can just be like, hey, let's just talk about how we think the adventure ended. And then let's just move on to the next adventure.
Yeah.
You don't have to complete it. If it is killing your fun in the game, you can just not do that. It is okay. It is your game. You don't have to finish an adventure.
Can I add in another thing here?
Oh, please, because there's a whole bunch of changes. I just did one of them, but talk about another one.
Yeah, one of the ones that I've actually done a couple of times in a couple of major games in my life has been my character is no longer interesting to me, right?
Absolutely.
Or has become frustrating or whatever it is for whatever reason. And so I have done on a couple of occasions gone to the GM and said, I'm having a problem because I'm not engaging with my character because XYZ. And then I haven't then been like, you have to fix it for me. I have then said, can I do ABC? Here's my solution to this to try and re-engage, right? And the first time it happened, it was because I'd literally never played D&D before, and I made a bard, and I discovered around level 10 that I really wish that I'd played a rogue, right? Like, you're really far in at that point to change your mind, and so there was some magic nonsense, and I cashed a bunch of stuff in to change all of my bard levels for rogue levels, which is why it's sometimes confusing when I talk about my first character, because she was both a bard and then a rogue, but she never multi-classed, right? So,
No, I think...
Right?
I think that's I think that's great. I also have a rule where within those first 4 sessions when I run a game, that any changes a player wants to make with their character is like, just go ahead and make them. Like, did you pick the wrong feat? Did you put the +4 in the wrong skill?
Wrong place?
Like, I don't care. Like, fix it now, because we're like getting our training wheels, right? Like, and it's especially true with like newer games. Yeah,
for sure. When you haven't played something before. Or the other instance I was going to bring up is, we started a game that was supposed to be a seafaring game. and then we changed it. We sort of played most of that adventure, and then the gentleman who was running it was like, I have this giant Pathfinder adventure. I don't remember which one it was, but it was one of the massive, like, tomes of adventure, right?
Yeah.
Would you guys like to play this? And we were like, yeah, absolutely, cool. Only to find out that it took place in a desert. So we had all built characters who were, like, had swimming skills and stuff, and then landed in a desert. And so I discovered that I didn't feel very useful. And in that particular instance, what I actually did is I went to the GM and said, can I be not the species that I appear to be? Right? And then had the secret thing going on, which was fun, except it's also the game in which I can tell you from experience, I learned tell the other players you have a secret so that they can be interested in your secret.
Yeah.
But it can be really engaging to change something like that to be like, I have a secret that I have to protect, right? So that was a thing that I changed about the character so that she was more engaging to me once we had made that switch. Anyway, moving right along. You can also, if changing a specific part of the game isn't going to do it, you can change the game. And this one, of course, is really good if you discover that it's like the mechanics that are not working for you, right? Like if you just played 5 sessions of Lasers and Feelings and you really like your characters, please don't play 5 sessions. I love Lasers and Feelings. I do not mean to be dissing on Lasers and Feelings. I love that game. But don't play it for 5 sessions straight. It's just not built for that sort of use, right? So if you've been playing something and the sameness is coming from the mechanics because there isn't enough there, or it's not doing what you want it to do, you're having to engage the rule of cool all the time because the mechanics are not supporting you telling the story that you want to tell, but whatever it is, that's fine. Change games. You can change games. It's okay. You can even keep the same characters, port everything over. I have literally taken a 4th edition D&D game and turned it into Fate, and it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Change game is almost my it's one of my number one moves when something stops becoming fun. I really start to kind of look at what games am I currently interested in? Like what's on my shelf that I'm like really excited to play again. Like
there's going to be something shiny there.
Yeah, like right now, like my a game that I would love to run when my group is ready for me to run it. And at some point I'm going to just say that it's the game I'm going to run, but I've been kind of letting my players get excited about it, which is Cartel.
Yeah.
I have always wanted to run Cartel. I have been excited about this game since it was an ash can. I have it. It's sitting on my shelf. It's fantastic. I want to run it really bad. I'm getting to the point where there won't be too many more choices that players can make before I'm just like, I'm running Cartel, and if you're in, you're in, and if you're not, you're not.
You're out. That's fine. Come back when we're done.
It's getting closer.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's some other games that I've kind of had my eye on that have also that look interesting. But that's even right now, one of my challenges is like, I'm not super excited about a whole bunch of games, which tells me that my issues are probably less about games and more about me.
Yeah.
All right. The next one you can do is change your group, right? If composition is your problem, fix the composition problem if you can. Right. I say that somewhat flippantly with the understanding that adding and removing people from game groups can, in some groups, be very easy, and in some groups can be very difficult.
Well, and sometimes fixing the composition or changing the group means that you decide that this group is not for you anymore, and you find a new group.
Yes. If you want to change too many of the people in the group, you might just need
to find a new group.
You may just need to find the group.
Yeah.
Exactly. Go ahead. What's our last one?
The last one, and this makes it sound so easy, so just bear with me, right? Solve external or internal stressors, meaning not necessarily that you're like, oh, I will just do this and everything is fixed, but sometimes it's something like moving, right? And you can say, I need to take this amount of time off, right? So accommodate yourself, be kind to yourself, and, just know or understand. And you don't necessarily have to figure this out in advance. It's fine if you figure it out after and you're like, oh man, I'm in the middle of moving and I was trying to run everything, you guys, and it's just not working, right? It is okay to say that. And it is okay to say, my baby is teething right now. I'm going to have to just pass on this session, whatever it is, right? So this one is really, it's not really about solving. What it really is about your self-care and remembering that you as a human and a person are always more important than the game. Whatever you're playing, whoever you're playing with, whatever's going on, sometimes you just have to make sure that you take care of yourself so that you can enjoy it later.
Yeah. So to be clear, we're definitely not saying like just be happy.
Yes.
Right,
don't just be happy. No, we're saying please take care of yourself so that you can enjoy things later when you are in a better place to.
But also recognize that as a person who has had bouts of depression before and a person who has definitely had bouts of anxiety before, there are times where it is worse and there are times where it is better. And sometimes I just need to address a few things or deal with a few things to get from a worse place to a better place.
Yeah.
Right. And that doesn't mean that I won't have depression again or that I won't be anxious again. Right.
Yeah.
But what it means is that where I am with what's going on in my life and my self-care and all of that, that I am better managing those things, right? I am better managing my anxiety. I am better managing my depression. Therefore, I am in a place where this game, a game, any game, whatever produces joy again.
Yep.
And that's what we mean by quote solve
yeah.
is do what you need to do to get yourself back to a place. If you can, right? Like, I mean, we say none of this trivially.
This is about things that are under your control and not things that aren't, right?
Yeah. And it's about finding your current equilibrium.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm kind of in this place now, and I feel like I'm going to have a whole therapy session about this coming up, which is with all the things that were kind of ahead of me for a while, like moving, projects, the pandemic and stuff. And now I've moved. I've closed my major projects. I've, I'm in this place where, and again, I don't trust this, right? I don't trust that the pandemic's over, but everybody's like, the world around me is acting like it's over, right? Like I'm reporting back to work. I'm, our infection rates are really low in New York State. So like, while I'm still like, the pandemic, right? Like the numbers aren't really bearing out like, pandemic right now. Not that to say they won't, which is what's giving me that uneasy feeling. But yeah, like I'm not even sure where I was going. I kind of lost my way there for a second.
It was about sort of the liminal space that you're currently in and trying to figure out what is going to be fun.
I don't even know, right? With all those things that were kind of so like in front of me for so long and kind of working towards getting done, I've like got to the other side of it. And I'm now like, I don't really know what is happy. Like, I know happy. I know, like, I don't know what's going to be fun. Or I don't know, like, I'm not used to having this kind of freedom to define my fun.
Yeah.
And I'm off. Like, I'm definitely having some issues, kind of having, there's this thing called astronaut syndrome, right? Like astronauts suffer, like they found that astronauts started suffering depression because they built up so much focus and drive to get to space or walk on the moon or whatever, that like once they did it, right? Like they didn't know what to do.
Yeah. What do you do next?
Right. And I'm having that problem. Like I spent 1.5 years, pandemic, a number of life changes, moving, all of those things that like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do next because I've been living in one frame of mind for so long. And that's kind of where I am. It's a weird place right now. I'm not unhappy, but I know I'm not right. Like, I can see signs where I'm like, I'm not where I should be. I'm in a better place than I was.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. It makes complete sense.
So it's pretty deep. Again, you can see why I was drawn to Spencer's question tonight, because like I've been wrestling with this. I've been wrestling with this for the last couple of weeks, and I had a nice diversion because I went and took a vacation with you.
Yeah.
Right. Which was great.
It was delightful.
That was it was the last thing on my list, right? Get all these things done. You can go on your first vacation in like almost, a year and a half.
Yes.
And then I did, and it was great. And we had a wonderful time. It was great distraction and everything else. But like now I'm back, and I'm like, what do
next?
I do? Yeah, like the song from what's it called? Like the song from Hamilton, right? Mm-hmm. Like what comes next?
Soon
right.
We'll see.
Yeah, that's what I feel like right now.
Yep.
So I'm okay, but I'm still off. Anyway, let us not talk any more of that. The point here tonight is, if you're asking the question, is this fun? You should delve in deep to find out what the real answer is. And if it's not, I think we've given you some suggestions about places to look, rocks to flip over. There are probably other rocks we didn't talk about that you have thought of. Feel free to talk to us about them on social media, because we'll tell you where in just a moment. But we're going to bring this to conclusion. Hopefully, Spencer, these tips will guide you towards the answers you need about what's going to be fun and make the changes you need in order to have fun. I know I'm going to be doing the same thing. So let's get into the closing, and we do that by going through plugging another show on the network. What show are we going to plug?
Well, tonight we are going to talk about Bonus Experience, on which Ray and Monica, who are two old friends and fantastic peeps, explore gameplay and design through the lens of diversity, while also sharing some of the dumbest humor gaming has to offer.
Indeed. Say, Senda, where do people find us on the internet?
Well, you can find us on Twitter at Pandas Talk Games. You can find us in the Misdirected Mark forums at forums.misdirectedmark.com, or you can drop us an email, panda@misdirectedmark.com, or I have lost the patter because it's been too long, but you can find us on the Tiki-Talkies. Yes.
Both under our names, right?
Both under our Twitter handles. So it's IDELLA. Are you really going to make me spell the whole thing?
No, really not. Really not.
Carry on then.
Carry on. You're supposed to tell me what should people do.
What should people do once they find us in one of those places? It's only been 2 weeks. You know that, right?
It goes right out the head. Much like Spencer did tonight, pose us a question. And actually, I just want to thank a number of people. We did put out a recent call for topics. We got a bunch of topics. Not that we'll ever have too many topics, so keep, always send them in. But the list is nice. I like a number of topics on there. I just grabbed this one because, again, it was resonating with me really hard. So I was just like, oh, we're totally doing this one tonight because I have feels about it.
Yeah.
But your other ones are also very good. We will get to them in good time. Anyway, leave us a topic, an idea, a question, a thing you want us to talk about. It doesn't really matter. We are super skilled at turning that into a show, which we will do. So we greatly appreciate that because we like to do shows that are relevant to you all. Because if they're relevant to you, it's probably relevant to somebody else. And we are trying to make you all have more better games. And we do that by hopefully helping you along the way. If you like what you're doing, if you like what we're doing here on the Misdirected Mark Network, here or elsewhere, consider joining our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/MMP. Patrons get access to the bonus outtakes, which is now the Bamboo Lounge. For this show, you get the after show from Misdirected Mark. The big thing is you get access to our Slack room for life. Slack room's great. 100 fantastic peoples. They are just lovely human beings talking about everything from food to gaming to all sorts of stuff. By all means, go check them out. It's great. We do have things like our Friday luncheon, which I may have to take from work now that I have to go back.
Oh, man.
Like another day.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's a rough one. Not thrilled. Anyway, working on those things. We greatly appreciate your patronage. It helps us with a whole bunch of things. We got to run this whole network. There's bills to pay, and that gets paid and stuff because of the money that you help that you provide to help support us. So thank you very much. If you are already supporting the Patreon campaign, thank you very much. If you are unable to support the Patreon campaign, that's no problem. We totally understand, but we do need help. That is a thing you can do for free. Senda's going to tell you the more complicated part. I'm going to tell you the easy part, which is spread the word, right? Tell your friends who are gamers. The one that I will say, and I've said it over and over, boy, if anyone asks you what your favorite, any of your favorite podcasts, or hey, is there a role-playing podcast I should listen to? Boy, if you just drop our name in, that helps. Whether the person that you answered goes and listens to us, or somebody who reads that tweet, that tweet thread, and then goes and checks us out, it's super helpful. People who know you, who like you, will take your recommendation, and that's how we get like a lot of listeners. So we greatly appreciate when you just drop our names in certain places, and we thank you very much. Senda's going to tell you about how we can get strangers to also follow the show, taking advantage of computer algorithms and the like.
Yes. So you can also leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcast or the podcatcher of your choice, whichever one you like. It's fine. They all work pretty similarly in that ratings and reviews do actually help people find new shows, and hopefully it will help them find ours, because we failed at SEO when we named our show. Please save us from our past selves 5 years in.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much to everyone who's already left us a review. They make us feel warm and fuzzy on the inside, and they certainly make this show continue to be much fun to record, because it's just delightful knowing that you're out there listening. So thank you very much to everyone who left one.
Yes, indeed. Say, Senda, show me what games you're thinking about running the next time that you kind of stop having fun.
I have thoughts.
Show me what you got, hey, show me what you got. Show me what you got, hey, show me what you got. Show me what you got, hey, show me what you got. Show me what you got, hey, show me.
This show is a joint production of She's a Super Geek and Misdirected Mark Productions, the media arm of Encoded Designs.
Show me what you got, hey, show me what you got. Show me what you got, hey, show me what you got. Show me what you got, hey, show me what you got. Show me what you got.
Yeah.
Hello, hello.
Yay. Can I interest you in everything all the time?
Are you really going to leave that in the outtakes?
Yeah, why not?
All right, TikTok fans, if you know where that sound's used.
Some people use it that way. Other people use it. I have seen it used different ways. It really just speaks to the TikToks that are on your feed.
I think people put it together.
Okay.
Goodness. Should we do a show?
Yeah, we probably should. It's just that it's stuck in my head now.
Should do a show.
Yes.
Alrighty. I guess I go, right?
Yeah, I just realized bracelet is on. Bracelet is coming off. Ow.
I'm just going
Ow.
to quick check to make
Ow.
sure both my work phone
Ow.
and my personal phone are on silent again.
I cut my nails. I can't get my bracelet off.
Okay, that one's off.
Yeah, okay, got it. Okay, no clicking sounds.
Okay. Good. All right. Are you
Okay.
ready?
Yes, I think I'm ready. I feel like we're a little out of practice.
We are a little out of practice. I'm a little concerned that I hear my... Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Do. Do.
Do we win for the most awkward opening today?
No, we've had more awkward openings than that.
It was kind of awkward.